Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad you're here with us today. I'm Martha Brokenbrough, pronouns she and her, and I'm the faculty co-chair of the Vermont College of Fine Arts program in writing for children and young adults. It's my honor to welcome you all from within our community and beyond to this ceremony and celebration.
And I am Martha's co-chair, Liz Garten-Scanlon, pronouns she, her, likewise honored to be here with you. We want to start by expressing deep gratitude to those at the college and within our program who made today possible, including VCFA President Leslie Ward, Academic Dean Matt Monk, Program Director Katie Rasmussen, Assistant Program Director Aidan Samus, and Program Assistant Caredwin Bagley, plus the saving graces of IT, Chris Green, Jason Baker, and Mary Rath. Thank you also to the dedicated team who ensure this campus is clean and operational for us.
Thanks also to the flexible, patient, and resourceful group of graduate assistants who served as our guides and go-tos this residency as always. Jen, Beth, Rebecca, Tamara, Tom, Max, me too, Kathy, Ashley, Jamie, David, Jessica, and Anne-Marie, you are the bee's knees. And all of our gratitude to the extraordinary writers and human beings of the faculty. You create a culture here that is rigorous and supportive, one that questions and affirms. And all of this while writing an astonishing variety of excellent books for young readers. You are beyond compare.
And welcome, Pros. Part of being a pro in this business is cultivating the highest standards for our work and ourselves. Part is being flexible and resilient. And another part of the professional pact is made of determination to carry on despite the inevitable challenges the world and the work dish out. In every respect, you have been pros while here with us, and we could not be more proud to welcome you as colleagues on the professional side.
Our professional community is richer for your presence. And this is the open secret of children's books, that we are a community, that this writing we do is not done alone, that all of us need people to cheer for us, to challenge us, to inspire us every day, to show us what is possible for us as human beings and as artists, what is possible to create with words. We build this community every day with our care and commitment.
Today, many of us are back on our beautiful, beloved campus. It is time of bittersweet joy. It is important to note that over the past 2 years, we've learned that our togetherness, who we are and what we do, transcends any set of buildings, transcends space and time. As Ada Limon, our country's next poet laureate, says, people have done this before, but not us. This is our time. This is our work.
And oh, how the world needs this work. You're graduating in a time of rampant book banning by people who don't want all stories to be told for all children. This is where you will become not just pros, but pros warriors. You will fight on behalf of children, not with weapons, but with words, which are infinitely more enduring. And you will wage this battle with no armor, but the faith in your open and loving heart. It contains everything you need to serve the children we love so much. Your heart is a seed. Plant it deep. Grow it fiercely and forever. Our colleague Kekla Magoon has been where you are sitting now, and she will tell you what she knows to be true about this life you've chosen.
I first set foot on the Vermont College of Fine Arts campus 20 years ago. I flew up from New York City to attend the Fall Foliage Literary Festival, a weekend workshop for writers that was being held here on campus during the peak of the colorful autumn leaf-changing season. I was 21 years old and very new to writing seriously. But one of the faculty for the event was Norma Fox Mazer, a writer I'd admired since childhood. I still had a whole row of Norma Fox Mazer books on my shelf in my childhood bedroom. So I called my mother and had her mail my favorite 2 titles that I could bring with me to have signed. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that I was going to meet this famous writer. So much so that when the books arrived, I was a little embarrassed about how old and beaten up they looked. I considered going to the bookstore and buying new copies to present to Norma, but in the end, I wanted her signature in my copy of her Newbery Honor book, After the Rain. So I packed my little suitcase and came up here knowing nothing and no one, and I fell in love with everything. Certainly with Norma and how sweet and generous she was in talking to me, but also with the campus and with the fall foliage and with the experience of being surrounded by writers. I didn't know any of the writing craft lingo that everyone was throwing around, but I didn't care because I was having such fun learning. Then faculty member Carolyn Coman critiqued a few pages of my work, and I will never forget the moment she pulled off her glasses, tapped the earpiece against her lips. So the signature Carolyn, if anybody knows her, and said, "I don't think you'd have any trouble getting into the program." What program? I asked, because I had literally come for the weekend. I didn't even know an MFA in writing existed, and I'd certainly never considered pursuing one. She handed me a brochure, and it took me several hours to process the fact that I could actually get a graduate degree in something I loved doing. So at the airport on the way home, I called my parents and I said, "Hey, remember how disappointed you were when I decided not to go to medical school? Guess what?" Thus began 2 intense years of scurrying home from my day job in Manhattan to work on my writing, of weekends spent camped out at my favorite table in the corner coffee shop, a lot of reading on the subway. Now, these were the days before social media. Okay, this is 2002. So my class kept in touch by email. We had a Yahoo group thread. Some of you remember those. This was also before emailing document attachments was a ubiquitous practice. So every month I physically went to the post office with my printed out packet pages and popped them into one of those brand new priority mail 2-day delivery envelopes and sent them off to my advisor. Only in my 4th semester did I email my packets to my advisor, but he still printed them out, wrote on them, and mailed them back to me. A lot changes in 20 years. I've changed, the college has changed, the world has changed many times over. A lot changes in 20 years, but just as much doesn't. 20 years is roughly half my lifetime, which means that for half my lifetime, this place has been my home away from home. There were times when it was more of a home to me than wherever I was living. And now it is literally my home in every respect because my house is right across town. It's too hard to wrap my mind around half a lifetime of change. But so much changed for me just in those 2 years that I was a student in the program. I went from marking up missing commas on workshop pieces because that was all I knew how to suggest, all the way to being able to have a substantive discussion about what was working or not working in a piece of writing on deeper levels. I went from feeling creatively isolated to feeling deeply connected. I went from writing for fun to setting publication goals with an eye toward maybe becoming a full-time author someday. 17 years ago, pros, I sat where you are as a graduate on this stage, and I well remember the mix of emotions. the sense of achievement, coupled with the sense of a future unknown, an ending wrapped up in a whole new beginning. I had become ensconced in this close-knit creative community, a place where I felt safe and appreciated. Stepping into the wider world again, and especially into the unfamiliar and reportedly cutthroat world of trade publishing, felt scary. It was also quite strange having to return to normal everyday life without that constant structure of packets. I soon missed the simplicity of explaining my writing practice as doing homework for grad school. It once again became entirely about what I wanted to do, a self-directed task that required new layers of focus and dedication. You may find, too, that it takes time to find your own rhythms and reinvent yourself as a writer post-MFA. But don't worry, you will. As for me, I had a full-time weekday job to return to, but I still spent long Saturdays in the coffee shop with my notebook rather than leaving my weekends entirely for play. It was ultimately occasionally a source of confusion to my friends and family when the pace and intensity of my commitment to writing didn't completely let up once the packet deadlines stopped looming. Our families and non-writer friends may never quite understand what it is we do as individual writers or as an academic and literary community, but that's okay. One of the gifts our loved ones can give us is the gift of acceptance, of time and space and compassion for the fact that we have each been called to do something difficult, something that taxes our minds and our hearts and our schedules and causes us to at times dive deep into ourselves and step away from other important parts of our lives. It is a challenging task at times to love a writer or to live with a writer. And for those families and friends watching today, know that your support is deeply appreciated. There is something that we writers share that is special, that cuts to the deepest parts of who we are. On the page, we explore identity, emotion, worldview, and if we do our jobs well, through our words, we slowly dig to the core of our very selves. It is vulnerable work, both draining and enriching by turns. Just like it's a relief to leave the public fray and come home to the people who know us best, it is also a relief to come home to a writing community where certain things don't have to be explained and comfort and acceptance awaits us. This is a home we can come to less frequently. Every 6 months, say, on a hilltop in Vermont. That fleetingness makes our time together very special. It makes us want to soak in every moment and joyfully await the next time we can gather. 17 years ago, as a grad sitting on this stage, I looked around at my classmates and I felt in my bones that this was the last time we would all be together in one place. I tried to override that feeling, to tell myself we'd find a way, but I felt the weight of reality looming. People are busy, we live far apart, life gets complicated and travel gets expensive. I knew we'd keep in touch, we still had our Yahoo group. We promised each other reunions and that we'd see each other at conferences and book festivals, and we did. 17 years later, I have seen all of them again. Most of them many times over. We did have retreats. We came for the Alumnix mini-res. We served as graduate assistants when we could, but we also drifted apart. And that wasn't even a sad thing because that tight-knit feeling of belonging to my class expanded to a feeling of belonging in the VCFA community as a whole. I was right, though. We were never all together at once, the 20 of us again. The very idea, though, of being all together means something different to your class already, because you've never all been in the same physical place at the same time, even yet. Right now, some of you are in England, some of you are watching from your own homes in the cloud, and some of you are here on the stage, but you're still united by 2 years of shared experience. Togetherness means new and different things to all of us in this landscape. 2 years ago, when we transitioned the program from in-person to online, when most of you started your first semesters, we didn't know exactly how everything would look, but we did it. And we've done it before. I will tell you that my class, too, was the last to graduate before a major upheaval struck our community that changed its fabric and led us to a new and stronger place. Hold on to this moment. Hold on to the memories of these strange and intense few years. They have been a doozy, both personally and professionally, and academically and emotionally. We have been rocked from our foundations, however steady they were to begin with. And that, for writers, is a gift. It may not feel like a gift when we turn on the news and get our empathic hearts broken over and over. It may not feel like a gift when we're aching for the world, aching for our friends, aching for a feeling of normal. But writers thrive in the not normal. When there's a storm at sea, you'll find us clinging to the hull and gasping for breath like anyone else. But our minds also do something in the chaos that others don't. When the sea calms or the rain lets up, even for a moment, we scratch out something about the experience. What we write might be fractured or allegorical or escapist, but it also might become the sun that we otherwise can't see. It might lead us out of the storm to an island, warm and dry. It might build us a fire. It might even make us gods of the sea so we can stretch out our hands and bring calm to the very waves. We forget we have this power when the storm has got the best of us, but it won't always have the best of us as long as we keep holding on, as long as we keep trying, keep writing, keep standing up for each other and ourselves, keep standing together. As writers for children in particular, when we remember this power and claim it, we also gift it to a whole new generation. The power to use our imaginations to create a better world, to say this in front of me needs revision, and I'm going to get on that. You all have that power. Use it for good. Use it to shake the foundations of our world yet again. Don't let us settle. Keep us on our toes. Keep us striving. Keep us engaged by your words and your vision. As Martha said, it is especially important right now that we build ourselves into stronger writers. In a landscape of book challenges, a landscape of opposition to historically marginalized narratives, a landscape of efforts to strip our children's bookshelves of complexity and nuance, in this place and time, our work is as important as ever. We must all speak up in order to combat the surge in voices that openly value homogenization over diversity. It has always been scary to step outside of the nice, comfortable, creative bubble of VCFA into the wider world of writers, readers, editors, agents, the publishing industry that many of us as students aspire to participate in. Perhaps we become a little bit like puppies walking in the woods, ever leaping and longing to explore deeper into the trees, but secretly comforted by the tug and tether of the leash that shows us the way home. It is quite startling the first time we wander alone, off leash, free to explore and find our own limits. In recent years, we've grown quite used to our foundations being rocked. We've grown wary of what will be the next thing to knock our moorings away. And yet, when that next shock was the news that VCFA residencies will soon be held in a new physical place, it still took our breath away. It reminds me of the feeling when you go off to college and your parents sell your childhood home so you can never quite return. But the truth is, return is complicated anyway. This moment is unique. Each residency is unique. Our class cohorts evolve, shaping and reshaping themselves over time. Coming back to this community, to this place, will always feel different than it felt the last time. The saying, "you can't go home again," exists for a reason. There's sadness in that, but there's also hope. Because the past is prologue, and we are each imbued with what we experienced here. And we are also destined for something of meaning in the wider world that will change who we are by the time we return. Perhaps the thing to remember is this: while our metaphorical puppy is running and playing, whether leashed or unleashed, its human is walking too. The comfort, the sense of home is right there with us, following us into the world, no matter where we go. So, my dear pros, I lost my bet. I thought I could do it. My dear pros. I may not be able to offer you the promise of a fixed college home to return to, but I can offer you the steadfast comfort of our alumnus community, which stretches all over the country and all over the world. On our collective journey through the forest, we are never alone. And so we welcome you to our ranks. We hold you in our arms and in our hearts, and we promise that together we will always be VCFA. Congratulations. And also, hooray! On behalf of the WCYA faculty and our alums alike, we are so proud of each of you. We cannot wait to get to know you better. We cannot wait to see what you do in the world. Go out and share your stories. We are eagerly awaiting all that you have to say. Thank you. Now, as is our tradition, we'll recognize each graduate by highlighting an excerpt of their creative work. Please welcome back Liz and Martha to do the honors. Thanks.
Thank you, Kekla. Jennifer Adams from Poppet. Children, Hawthorne calls out, I desire all of you to look upon this woman and see if she is the person who has hurt you. Then I hear a scream and turn to see Abigail. She torments me even now. Please, good sister, please release me. What have I done to you that you will torment me? Please, it hurts. And it is then I see Mercy's face. She turns toward the crowd, her face alight with I know not what. She is enjoying this hellish drama, this sensational horror. Mercy is no longer bored. I burn, she screams. Jennifer Adams. Catherine Amato from The Sugar Bowl. Jess is in her driveway, dribbling her green basketball. With such focus, I almost want to look away. Her eyebrows pull tight together in concentration. I stand at my window and watch. She sinks 3 baskets in a row, then she looks right at me. Our eyes meet through the glass and span of sunset air. She grins and points to the basketball, then up at me. My scalp prickles. I pulse with hot embarrassment. Yanking my blinds down, I turn and press my back against the wall. Catherine Amato. Dominic Bucca from Hurry, Scurry, Hermit Crab. When the hermit crab climbs in, tucks in, stretches out, he finds plenty of room. His new shell perfectly, flawlessly fits. No more sunburn, a hiding space from birds. He is cozy, comfy, safe at home. Secure in his roomy new shell, the hermit crab is eager to crunch, munch, lunch on seaweed and algae and all the sea's bounty floating by in the tides. Hurry, scurry, hermit crab, you've got room to grow. Dominic Bucca. Christy Marie Konovich from Sweet Dreams. Last night at dinner, Evie had been the one regarding her bowl in silence, watching a faint rainbow sheen of oil swirl on top of the tomato soup, which tasted faintly metallic. There hadn't even been grilled cheese sandwiches to go with it as they'd intended, because it turned out that they were out of bread. And neither felt like driving down the street to the Dollar General to get another loaf. Maybe the grilled cheese would have turned the meal around. It would have been harder to sustain the slow motion grieving when pulling at melty ribbons of cheese with their hands. Christy Marie Konovich. Nicole Crail from Edmund O'Brien, 7th grade supervillain. The seven seats, 7 supervillains. They ruled the villain world by being judge, jury, and especially executioner. Since its founding over 1,000 years ago, an O'Brien had always held a seat. Edmund, his mother said, your sister and brother, your father and I, we all have a calling to be the very best at being the very worst. But you, she paused and eyed his Green Hero Award. I don't know. I just don't know. Nicole Crail. Alina DeBellis from Backwards World. Wow is the perfect word to describe their closet. And not just because the sheer volume of contents within the room is astonishing, but because the word is spelled the same in this dimension as it is in our own. I wonder if my 6th grade teacher, Ms. Mackenzie, had any inkling when she was teaching us about palindromes that she was also teaching us interdimensional words. Alina DeBellis. Sarah Dorsch from Nori, the Letter Tamer. Cece hands me the book. It weighs 1 billion pounds. The D's pirouette, all the B's somersault, the P's and G's flip-flop. You've got this, Cece says, but I don't. I squint. Is it Deb or bed? It must be bed, right? What does everyone else see? Time for bed, Cece whispers. A gurgle erupts past the lump in my throat. Ms. Hannah, Nori doesn't feel well, Cece says. Thanks, I mumble. Out I slink. Sarah Dorsch. Amy Ellerman from Playing the Kardashians. Mr. Collins paused. Sammy wondered if they covered this sort of thing at principal school, lecturing kids on what they played at recess. Maybe there was a list, okay and not okay. She wondered who got to decide which games were okay and which ones got you sent to the office. Mr. Collins continued. Here's what I think, and you can let me know if you agree that we may have found the issue. I think the other kids can hear you commenting on their clothes, and it sounds like perhaps you're not being very nice. We're not trying to be nice. We're trying to be the Kardashians. Amy Ellerman. Jamie Evans from Sound Off. The thumping from the TV pounds in my head, like someone's banging on a drum right next to my ear. I pull out my other notebook, the one I keep just to myself, and start scribbling down all the things I wish I were. All the things I can't do because of my sound sensitivity. I write about the tense feelings in my body right now, how I want to throw something, to cry, to scream. I'm not crying yet, and I'm not screaming, but eventually I fall into my notebook and just keep writing. Jamie Evans. Lynn Fairchild Hawks from Here Comes the Dog Parade. An unmistakably male voice spoke inside my head. You will be a nun. I froze while the seventh station unfolded down the aisle. This voice was deep and loud, the way Lincoln's profile on a penny would sound if copper came to life. It had to be the voice of the Lord. It echoed in my foggy brain, my own enunciation. You will be forever sexless, unlovable, and alone. And I would believe that for 6 straight months. Lynn Fairchild Hawks. Julie Herman, From All That Glitters. Above me, the single ripe apple shimmered in the growing light. A ray of full sun struck the fruit, red, flushed gold. I launched myself up the tree. The bark under my hands was worn smooth from generations of royal children scampering up the tree, including me. I knew every branch, every crook. Within seconds, I gained enough height. The limb I stood upon trembled under my weight as I inched out toward the glittering apple. It did not matter if the bough broke. It did not matter how hard the ground beneath me might be. It only mattered if I could claim the apple. The sound of wings hammered against my ears such that I might as well not have worn the shawl. I did not stop. Julie Herman. Christine Houston from the Master Key Mystery. George finally tucked his phone into his pocket and studied the door. He pressed his thumb on the lever of the ancient handle, and surprisingly, the door gave way, opening into the warm foyer. Chloe sucked in a breath. What the? George's voice cut off in alarm. He turned to her with wide eyes. Gran's been robbed. Christine Houston.
Brianna Jett from I Promise Not to Lie to You. Reader, I thought in the hospital that night that the worst was over, that the storm had passed, that the truth was out, and that I could start picking up the pieces of my life and putting them back together again. Still, my arms ache from the effort of it. Still, my chest aches from the memory of it. Reader, I was tired, and I wouldn't blame you if you are too. Brianna Jett. Tori Lee Kelly from Ciao Bella. I spin around and there he is, holding a fragrant bouquet of white gardenias wrapped in newspaper. For you, Bella. Where did these come from? I bury my whole face in them, breathe in deeply. The smell is a hug from Mom. I look up at Massimo. These were my mother's favorite, I say, even though something tells me he already knows. I smell them again. Now they're my favorite too. Dio mia, Papa says. Kiss him already. Tori Lee Kelly. Sarah Lord from How to Break a Curse. Once upon a time, a mermaid fell in love with a human prince. She traded her voice for legs and the chance to love of her own free will. If only I had more time, she thought, as her last day ran out and her body bubbled. What would you give for a second chance? The sea witch asked. From silent lips that could not form anything but her last breath, the mermaid mouthed what rang loud and clear in her thoughts. My child. Sarah Lord. Jordan McCullum from Almost Heaven. Mama's hands were always old. Her knuckles were knobby mountains. Her veins were blue rivers. Her skin was soft, delicate, crinkled like tissue paper. Mama's hands were always sure. She would smooth out the fabric better than an iron, line things up more precise than a computer. Measure once, cut once, mistakes never. Mama's hands were always gentle, guiding my hands over the rulers under the arm of the sewing machine, patting me on the shoulder when I sewed a straight seam or cut a straight line, correcting me when I pieced things together wrong. Mama's hands made amazing things, from cornbread to quilts. Mama's hands were love. Jordan McCullum. Hannah Morgan Teachout From hand in hand, the Baltic way to freedom. Hand in hand, they made many lines. Rows of cars and buses filled the streets, blocked by the longer chain of people holding hands. Drivers and passengers linked hands and joined the chain, hand in hand, in hand, in hand. There were no strangers. Flags waved. People sang songs in their own languages. Flowers fell from the sky. When the sun went down, people held up candles, light to remember the thousands of lives taken, all the voices that were lost. Hannah Morgan Teachout. Samara Uzunian, Night Ants. I catch a scent dark as a cemetery breeze. Shivers come over me and I smell the chill of oiled armor. Am I a ghost? Dead? Invisible? Rumbles soft as whispers, but mighty as the Mississippi. It's an army.
Always old. Her knuckles were knobby mountains, her veins.
It's an army. Ants, oversized, monstrous as dogs sniff through the field. Big and battle-worthy. The black-plated machines push forward, each with a battalion of legs thick as cattails and mighty as horses. Their eyeless heads hunch forward over torsos curved short with black brooms, spinning, sweeping, cleaning everywhere, sniffing, hunting for me. Samara Uzunian. Amy Noel Parks from Fool Me Twice. Things last night were not great, which isn't exactly a surprise, but I don't know. I hoped that when I told Dad about the lock and the bracelet and the tattoo, he'd understand. That's why I went with the truth. Instead, he went in full-on rant mode, shouting about how irresponsible she was to drag me into this and about how I could be throwing away a normal college experience, not to mention my whole future. Telling him I wasn't all that interested in either normal hadn't helped. I told him some people take a whole gap year and I'm just taking a gap 2 months, so he should chill. He was not impressed. There's no way I can let this go, though. I've been waiting 3 years for this summons. Amy Noel Parks. Lynn Plow. From the Legends of Bithenray. I'll start looking over there, said Philippe, pointing toward the front of the building. What's the name of the book again? It took me a moment to remember both of the book's disguises. It's either the Nosegrove Compendium of Battle-Clawed Butterflies or Buster Tennant's discovery of the wet-beaked armadillo in the marshland plains of Sotheby. Philippe pulled his brows together in confusion. You don't remember which one? It's complicated, I said. Lynn Plow. Katie Randall from Tessa in Carewild. I was just curious. I didn't hurt it. You didn't hurt it, Vince said. Oh, good. Sarcasm dripped from his voice. The door says do not enter because chimeras are territorial and breathe fire. How long were you in there? Just for a minute? Honestly, I wasn't sure how long it had been. That cute little thing breathes fire? Amazing. My life was now officially divided into 2 epochs, before Chimera and after Chimera. Katie Randall. Madeline Remy. I'm not really sure that silence exists. When most people say silence, they mean no one is talking. They might mean that music isn't playing or that the television has turned off. But I don't think I've ever heard true silence before. There is always something making noise, the whoosh of a car, the rumble of our heater, a chirp from a bird outside. My own breathing ruins the very concept of silence. There is always a hum under every moment, the world forcing itself to be heard. It's comforting, I guess, to know that even when everything in my universe seems to have stopped, that life is still going on. Madeline Remy. Samantha Bland Singh from Welcome to Black Manor. It all happened very fast after that and painfully slowly. Jackson would be trapped in these short seconds for the rest of his life. The man with no face stepped into his room, his movements smooth and precise, nothing like the clumsiness of Simon, who stood motionless by the man's side. The man straightened to his full height before him, towering over Jackson, and reached up with two large, pale hands to the collar on his blue plaid shirt, straightening it. He smoothed back his dark hair. All of these movements he did slowly, carefully. Then he lunged. Samantha Bland Singh. Emma Tara from Wherever You Stray. I'm sorry, Phoebe. Cal's voice is soft, brown eyes direct and clear. That's all I've wanted to say to you for months. I'm so sorry about everything. And here comes Porcupine Phoebe. Like a quick I'm sorry can erase how it felt for him, my best friend, to... No, he doesn't get to try to make everything okay. He can't. And just when I open my mouth to tell him all that, the door swings open and the dogs start barking. Emma Tara. Nicole Laverne Thomas, from Where I Live. At first, I sleep deep, warm, and delicious dreaming, but then I wake up, wondering, am I here or there now? New light, new shadows. Maybe we should call sleepovers something else, napovers or no sleepovers. Morning sun hits hardwood floors while new birds sing new songs. You awake? Yep. We woke up best friends. Nicole Laverne Thomas. And now it's time to make it official. I hereby call upon Leslie Ward, President of Vermont College of Fine Arts, to confer the degrees.
Thank you. Good afternoon and greetings to all who are joining us from their homes, from Bath, and on campus to this wonderful event. I want to underline my thanks and appreciation to all the partners, families, and friends who have supported our graduates. They have worked hard over 4 semesters, probably harder than they have ever worked in an academic setting. They needed your encouragement, as well as the space and understanding for their creative process to flourish. I want to take a moment to thank our faculty, who are dedicated to our students, to their growth, to their writing, and who this residency more than ever have proven that they put their students' needs in front of their own as they processed the news of the college, moving their residencies, and helped you process it while they were doing their own work. I want to add my thanks to our hardworking GAs, who often provide that all-important bridge between being a student and being a graduate. And of course, thanks to our tireless staff, Katie and her team, IT, facilities, housekeeping, who provide the all-important scaffolding that make these programs possible. And finally, thank you, Kekla, for that wonderful talk. We're here today to celebrate the accomplishments of our graduates who have spent 4 semesters honing their storytelling skills in the service of young people. Whether you choose to do that through poetry, fiction, or nonfiction, to become a skilled storyteller takes incredible time and effort. It takes the hard work of both emotional authenticity and deep curiosity and hyper attention to your craft. You have done that work and will continue to, even as you leave this institution. This craft that you so intensely dedicated yourself to over 4 semesters opens up the opportunity for you to make some of the most important contributions to a young person's development and provide hope for the future of our world. In our country, and in many others across the world, children and young adults are the most neglected class of individuals. We know the most important part of brain development happens between birth and 3 years old, and yet we don't have guaranteed early childhood education or care. But we do have writers who write books for that age group, full of alliterations and rhymes and stimulating illustrations that expose our children to rich language, sentence formation, and story structure. We have huge inequities in who gets access to enrichment opportunities, whose worlds get expanded through access and whose do not. There is also huge inequity in the media children are exposed to around messages of individual worthiness and whose life experiences receive validation. And yet we have writers who write stories and poems that say, "You are worthy. This is possible." We have a nation that is increasingly divided, where many children often grow up in homes and schools that follow narrowly conceived doctrines and vilify those who live outside that doctrine. And yet we have writers who write stories about real and imagined worlds that call doctrinaire thinking into question and invite curiosity, deeper inquiry, and compassion into what is right and who gets to decide. We also know life is undecidedly fair, and that love and emotional safety are not meted out in equal measure. And for those whose lives, through no fault of their own, are lacking in love or hope, or are full of threats, we have writers who write stories that provide balm, sometimes life-saving balms, and can open up space to feel for a moment taken care of, seen, or even know what it means to experience joy. And because of that, I want to say you are leaving VCFA with a superpower. Well before the internet and well before Zoom screens, writers have had the ability to transcend physical place and visit with, become friends with, and indeed live within a child's world and play the role of that favorite auntie or teacher or neighbor who helps shape a child's development and influences who they become as they step into their full selves. As you continue this important work, VCFA will continue to be an important part of your writing community. We want to stay connected. We want to continue to nurture your creative and professional growth. And now, for that culminating event of your time here, graduates, please stand. by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees and with the authority of the great state of Vermont, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Fine Arts in Writing with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Before we close today, let's hear from the pros themselves. I would like to offer the microphone to Tori Lee Kelly for the class gift presentation.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today, and those of you in the cloud for watching when you could be napping on this fine afternoon or wherever you are in the world. On behalf of my fellow pros, it is my great honor to announce the July 2022 class gift. We came together for a discussion on how we would like to make a difference in our community. I'm happy to say this was an easy choice to make. We have chosen to make a donation to the Rita Williams Garcia Scholarship Fund. Rita Williams Garcia is a celebrated author of novels for young adults and middle grade readers. The scholarship fund was created to provide tuition support for students that identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. We invite you to help us grow this scholarship fund by making a donation of your own. You can do that by visiting the Vermont College of Fine Arts website and click on the Make a Gift tab. Our class would like to thank our leadership, David, Leslie, Katie, and Aiden, and the GAs and the rest of the wonderful administration who made all of this possible. Without you, we wouldn't have had such an amazing residency and a phenomenal 2 years. Thank you to Anne, who planted the seeds of belonging to VCFA. Many, many thanks to our brilliant faculty. You are the heart of this program. We learned so much from you. And thank you to our families, friends, and support systems, those here in this room and those watching from afar. We couldn't have done this without you. Don't be alarmed if we need a little extra sleep, and feel free to bring us food or some extra TLC after coming out of such a wonderful and intense program. Pros. We made it! But wait, there's more. Please welcome Hannah Morgan Teachout, who has one more class surprise to share.
For most of us, our tenure at VCFA began just as the world seemed to stop spinning, July 2020. In just a few weeks, the world we thought we knew changed. But even though we faced an incredible number of unknowns, this cohort chose to keep going. We chose to build ourselves a community. We chose hope. This we have in common with the incoming class. Firsties, if you will, please rise and come to stand in the center aisle. Two years after we started here, the world remains an uncertain place. And yet, this new cohort of dreamers and writers chose hope too. Today, we graduate, but if we could, we would trade places with you and start this wonderful journey all over again. Instead, it's our honor to step aside so you can take our place. Please accept our gift of a blank page and see it as a gift of hope, of promise, This is one of our favorite traditions and one of the most secret. This is our way of saying, you belong here. And to those firsties in the cloud, Alexis and Chelsea, we will be mailing your journals to you. On behalf of the class of July 2022, I wish you well as you embark on your first semester at the Vermont College of Fine Arts. We can't wait to see what you create.
All right, if our tech crew can, for a moment, turn it to gallery view and let's see if we can see our cloud and UK-based graduates one last time. We just like to see their faces, you know? All right. All right. Yay. Okay, look over there. Look over there. Oh, there we go. Yay. And with that, friends, it is time to close not just this graduation ceremony, but also the VCFA Writing for Children and Young Adults July 2022 residency. Folks in our community and invited guests, please head out to the green to share in the joy of the day. Be well, everyone.